Welcome back. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, Deputy Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa met with the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd J. Austin III at the Pentagon as part of His Royal Highness's official visit to the United States. His Royal Highness emphasized Bahrain's steadfast commitment to supporting efforts to enhance international security, stability and peace, and to address regional and global challenges. His Royal Highness welcomed the historic signing of the new Comprehensive Security Integration and Prosperity Agreement between Bahrain and the U.S., noting that the Comprehensive Security Integration and Prosperity Agreement will significantly bolster shared efforts to protect regional stability. The meeting also addressed ongoing bilateral military and defense cooperation and covered regional and international developments of common interest. The National Security Advisor, Secretary General of the Supreme Defense Council and Commander of the Royal Guard, His Highness Lieutenant General Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdul Latif bin Rashid Al Zayani, the Minister of Finance and National Economy, Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, the BDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Diab bin Sagr Naimi, and a number of senior officials also attended the meeting. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, Deputy Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa met with U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan at the White House. The U.S. National Security Advisor reaffirmed the United States' enduring commitment to Bahrain's security and thanked His Royal Highness for Bahrain's steadfast partnership, which includes hosting the U.S. Navy Fifth Fleet and the headquarters of the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command. His Royal Highness noted that long-standing Bahrain-U.S. relations are based on shared values of fairness, justice, tolerance, peace, and diversity. They also praised the signing of the new Comprehensive Security Integration and Prosperity Agreement, which will serve as a cornerstone for cooperation among a broader group of countries that share mutual interests in a common vision with regard to deterrence, diplomacy, and escalation. The Bahrain and U.S. delegations discussed opportunities to strengthen economic and commercial ties under the new agreement, including a target of summer 2024 to launch direct flights between Bahrain and the U.S. They also discussed exploring bilateral cooperation on the development of commercial advanced small modular reactors in line with shared goals of deploying innovative zero-carbon technologies. They pledged to stay in contact in the coming weeks and months to oversee implementation of the agreement. His Royal Highness and the Bahraini delegation also participated in the bilateral technology dialogue with senior U.S. officials at the White House to explore ways of deepening cooperation on critical and emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa departed the United States following an official visit where His Royal Highness met with U.S. senior officials and signed the Comprehensive Security Integration and Prosperity Agreement with the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. His Royal Highness also held discussions on developing bilateral relations and furthering cooperation towards mutual aspirations. His Royal Highness was bid farewell by the National Security Advisor, Secretary General of the Supreme Defense Council and Commander of the Royal Guard, His Highness Lieutenant General Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani, the Minister of Finance and National Economy Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, BDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Dhiab bin Sagr Al Naimi, the Minister of Sustainable Development Noor bint Ali Al Khlif, the Ambassador of Bahrain to the US Sheikh Abdullah bin Rashid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, and other senior officials. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa concluded his official visit to the United States, which witnessed the signing of a Comprehensive Security Integration and Prosperity Agreement with the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, in addition to meetings with senior officials from the U.S. administration. On the occasion of Bahrain's celebration of World Ozone Day, which falls on September 16th under the slogan Montreal Protocol, Healing the Ozone Layer and Reducing Climate Change, His Majesty the King's Personal Representative, President of the Supreme Council for Environment, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, affirmed that Bahrain's achievements, accomplishments and positive reputation in protecting the ozone layer reflects the confidence of the regional and international community in the Bahrain's active role in supporting the international efforts in this field. In this regard, His Highness hailed the efforts of qualified national cadres within the executive apparatus of the Supreme Council for the Environment, as well as government and private entities in the kingdom in implementing various environmental projects aimed at protecting the ozone layer, preserving the environment and addressing climate change. He emphasized that the Kingdom of Bahrain is making steady strides towards fulfilling the requirements of ozone layer protection in accordance with internationally recognized best practices. He commended the global efforts that have contributed to achieving international consensus on the Kigali Amendment, which contributed to reducing global warming. His Highness expressed pride and appreciation for the efforts of the international community for their remarkable global achievements in the field of protecting the ozone layer. His Highness emphasized the importance of ongoing international cooperation in order to achieve the desired outcomes and fulfill the scientific expectations and international reports for reaching complete recovery of the ozone layer in the next 2 decades. The chairman of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports, chairman of the General Sports Authority and president of Bahrain Olympic Committee, His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, received the Egyptian Minister of Youth and Sports, Dr. Ashraf Subhi. His Highness hailed the depth of brotherly relations between Bahrain and Egypt, noting the strong ties in all fields, especially in the youth and sports fields. His Highness expressed hope to further develop these relations in a way that meets the aspirations of the youth in both countries. They discussed ways of enhancing cooperation in the youth and sports fields by exchanging expertise, mutual visits and activating joint agreements. For his part, the minister expressed thanks and appreciation to His Highness for the generous hospitality and noted the strong relations between the two countries. He also hailed the successes and achievements made by Bahrain at the youth and sports level, wishing Bahrain continued progress and prosperity. Deputized by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Minister of Housing and Urban Planning, Amna bint Ahmed Rmehi, participated in the 5th Budapest Demographic Summit (BDS) in Hungary. Rmehi emphasized that the policies adopted by the government of Bahrain regarding diversifying housing options for citizens through the Housing Financing Program and the Government Land Development Program aim at providing an innovative and sustainable housing system capable of keeping pace with population growth and accommodating the increased annual demand for housing requests. She highlighted Bahrain's efforts in providing social support services to Bahraini families, including the provision of housing services for citizens with a limited income. During her participation in the panel discussion, Rmehi stated that the newly established housing programs aim to provide immediate housing services without long waiting periods, highlighting the projects offered by the ministry in partnership with the private sector through the Government Land Development Program. She added that these options align with the efforts to develop the 5 housing cities that the government is currently working on implementing. Rmehi revealed that since the beginning of the housing journey in the 1960s, Bahrain has been able to provide over 150,000 housing services for citizens with limited income. She exhibited the efforts of the government to implement the directives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa to provide 40,000 housing units. Rmehi also spoke about the new era witnessed by the housing sector in Bahrain, which involves the government's focus on providing immediate housing services to citizens through the Housing Financing Program and the Government Land Development Program. The Minister of Housing and Urban Planning, Amna Rmehi, held a meeting with the Minister of Family, Women, Childhood and the Elderly of Tunisia, Dr. Amal Belhaji Moussa. Rmehi has reviewed the ministry's plans to provide housing services to citizens and the programs that were recently developed to provide sustainable housing services to Bahraini families in partnership with the private sector. The two sides discussed ways of cooperation and exchanging expertise and experiences in the field of providing community services provided to citizens, including those related to the social housing sector. The Tunisian minister expressed appreciation for the kingdom's efforts in providing housing services and developing the urban planning sector. The Minister of Housing and Urban Planning, Amn Ramahi, held a meeting with the Minister of Family and Social Services of the Republic of Turkey, Mahinur Göktaş. During the meeting, bilateral relations between the two friendly countries were reviewed and ways of cooperation in relevant common areas were also discussed. Expertise were exchanged between the two countries, and a number of topics raised at the 5th Budapest Demographic Summit were discussed. During the meeting, Ramahi reviewed the ministry's plans to provide housing services to citizens, which was recently developed by the ministry to provide immediate and sustainable housing services. This was in partnership with the private sector and focused on efforts to provide projects and services in residential areas. For her part, the Minister of Family and Social Services of the Republic of Turkey appreciated Bahrain's efforts in providing housing services and social services to citizens, stressing the readiness to cooperate and exchange expertise and experiences, which will contribute to enriching cooperation in both countries. The Minister of Housing and Urban Planning also held a meeting with the President of the Hungarian Institute for International Affairs, Dr. Gladin Papen. During the meeting, a number of relevant topics presented at the Budapest Demographic Summit were discussed, and the participation of Bahrain's delegation in the summit was highlighted through topics that highlight the plans and programs of the government of Bahrain to provide social and housing support to Bahraini families. The minister also discussed the housing gains achieved during the last decade. For his part, Dr. Papen expressed his appreciation for the programs and plans directed to support citizens in the kingdom by providing housing and social services. The Ministers of Commerce and heads of GCC chambers took part in the consultation meeting, which was held in the city of Salalah in the Sultanate of Oman. Minister of Industry and Commerce Abdullah bin Adel Fakhru took part in the session, which was held as part of the meetings of the GCC ministerial committees. Addressing he stressed the importance of reinforcing coordination between the GCC member states, which contributes to achieving common interests and exchanging expertise and training. The minister highlighted the GCC states' potential, which contribute to bolstering trade exchanges and engaging the private sector as the driving engine of the development momentum. The Kingdom of Bahrain joins the world in celebrating the International Day of Democracy, which falls on September 15th every year amidst remarkable democratic achievements. Popular participation in Bahrain is evident through parliamentary and municipal elections, consistently affirming the progress of the Bahraini people in their unique democratic model towards further development and advancement. Bahrain presents an honorable demographic model that also reflects the royal keenness and the public will evident in the reform project initiated by His Majesty the King and the National Action Charter that marked a historic milestone in the national journey, receiving the approval of 98.4% of the people. Building on these national constants, Bahrain has achieved democratic accomplishments during the prosperous era of His Majesty by enacting constitutional amendments that uphold the principle of equality for all and guarantee the rights of individuals, both men and women, to exercise their constitutional right to run for and vote in the Parliamentary Council. The Bahrain Institute for Political Development has lauded the constant advancement of the kingdom's democratic system since the launch of the Comprehensive Development March led by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, which contributed to achieving the true and full partnership of the citizens in the decision-making process through effective national institutions and within the national laws and legislation. In a statement marking the International Day of Democracy 2023 themed Empowering the Next Generation, the Institute also commended the efforts of the government led by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa to strengthen the pillars of the state of institutions and law in a way that achieves the aspirations of the citizens and within well-established rules that regulate democratic work in the kingdom. The BIPD indicated that this year's celebrations of the International Day of Democracy are in line with the sound royal vision and the kingdom's programs and plans to enhance the role of youngsters and youth in the democratic process by providing all means to prepare a generation capable of leading the democratic process in accordance with the fundamentals of society, as well as Arab and Islamic values based on peace, acceptance of others, and tolerance. The BIPD statement said that ultimate goal is to build a modern society whose members are capable of preserving and protecting democracy in the future. BIPD highlighted the kingdom's youth-related plans and programs in addition to its efforts to develop the educational process, hone youth skills, and provide them with adequate training in order to benefit from their creative skills and pave the way for them to support all sectors of Bahrain's comprehensive development process. The statement also shed light on the pivotal role played by BIPD in consolidating the democratic process in the kingdom through launching a series of programs and national events targeting various social groups, particularly youth, out of its strong belief in the importance of improving their national and historical culture and knowledge, as well as promoting the values of loyalty and national belonging among them to ensure a better future for the kingdom. BIPD also indicated that its Future Bet program is in line with His Majesty the King's vision regarding the empowerment of youth, as they are a national priority and need to be involved positively in building the kingdom's future, noting that the program aims to prepare a generation of Bahraini youth cadres who engage in national political work and reach the Representatives' Council in the future. Concluding its statement, BIPD emphasized the importance and constructive role played by Bahraini youth in various regional and global gatherings to inform the entire world about the kingdom's democratic achievements and gains, which contributed to strengthening the spirit of national action and affirming the principles of loyalty and belonging. Higher education institutions in the Kingdom of Bahrain are preparing to receive students for the new academic year 2023-2024. Higher education institutions provide opportunities for students to specialize and delve deeper into various fields of knowledge, and are also keen to prepare qualified human cadres to serve various paths of development. The Higher Education Council in Bahrain seeks to provide high quality and distinguished higher education in Bahrain and monitors the quality of higher education institutions, their performance, outputs, and financial conditions. To ensure the quality of education in Bahraini universities, the Council helps to develop the research capabilities of faculty members and students and produce educational programs in a way that keeps pace with the scientific progress and responds to the requirements of comprehensive development in Bahrain. The Kingdom of Bahrain participated in the 8th meeting of GCC officials for Islamic affairs and endowments held in Muscat, Oman. The meeting discussed several topics, including the guidance program regarding the protection of moral, religious, and family values in Gulf societies, mechanisms for cooperation between ministries and institutions of endowments, Islamic affairs, and religious affairs in the GCC, the paper on the Islamic vision on combating climate change and environmental protection. Bahrain also participated in the 25th meeting of the Justice Delegates and the meeting of heads of authorities responsible for zakat in GCC. These participations reflect the depth of the fraternal ties that bind the GCC countries and the shared work and exchange of expertise among them. In line with the directives of His Majesty the King, In line with the directives of His Majesty the King, mosques and places of worship in Bahrain held absentee funeral prayers, Salat al-Ghaib, for the earthquake victims in the Kingdom of Morocco, as well as victims of the hurricane that struck several areas in Libya.
صلاة الغائب وهي كصلاة الجنازة. ندعو لضحايا الزلازل والسيول في المغرب وفي ليبيا بالرحمة والمغفرة لعلها تكون ساعة الإجابة. اللهم اغفر لنا ولهم ولا تفتنا بعدهم. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا تفتنا بعدهم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
The worshippers prayed to Allah the Almighty to bestow His mercy upon the victims of the earthquake and floods. They prayed to Allah to heal the injured and protect the Kingdom of Bahrain and the Muslim lands from all harm. The Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, in compliance with the royal directive, entrusted the Sunni and Jafari endowments administrations to issue a directive to the preachers and mosques to perform the absentee prayer for the victims in the two brotherly countries.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر